Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we have been working on this Brigo lander, and things are definitely progressing nicely on it. We're not sure we're quite ready to do this, because if I look into this, we can see here in stage 1, it's a decent thrust to weight. It's an okay thrust to weight. I want to do a quick test flight here, and we'll see how much DV we have once we get to orbit. I also should probably double check this staging. Okay, so first up would be these engines, and then the fairing would happen at the same time. I kind of want to separate out the fairing base, just in case. I'm not sure when exactly this stage will happen. So we'll separate that for now. The observer lander would go there. There would be an interstage there. Right, that's the return, and then the parachutes. Okay, so let's put this out on the pad, and we can see that this overall price, about $8.5 million. Not bad, considering we're looking at getting paid like $250 million for this, I think. Hang on, let's double check that. So we're going to be getting paid actually $285 million. Okay, so I don't care about the heading for now. Let's just launch this guy and let's see what this feels like. Bit slow off the pad. We knew that would be the case with a 1.48 thrust to weight at the very beginning. So that is not terribly shocking. Just these two engines, and that's fine for the moment. We can see our thrust to weight is definitely going up. But my question is, how close to being in orbit are we going to be off of this stage? I don't think it's going to be very close, so I think we're probably going to have to add on a couple of side stages. Those will probably be SRBs, and I'm not expecting them to be tremendously expensive or difficult to add on. So we can see our apoapsis is about 8 degrees. I'm going to pitch us over to 70 here, and we'll start building up some horizontal speed. We'll go into orbital mode. That's fine. And we haven't added solar panels on this. We should definitely do that. So that is noted. And we're at 20 kilometer apoapsis as of now. We can see that thrust to weight really going up. We know it's going to be really high towards the end. Most of our DV is going to come from that last little kick. So that's understood. We're going to be about 40 kilometers right now for the apoapsis, so let's put ourselves at a pitch of approximately 45. And we'll hold here for a little bit. Right until an apoapsis of about 70. Actually, right about now. Let's just bring this guy right on down to a pitch of 0. And we'll just burn here, and the question is, how close to orbit are we going to get here? The answer is we're going to be about 1 kilometer per second away. I can tell you that right now. So that is definitely not enough, although we have very high thrust to weight at this stage, which is not phenomenal. And this thrust to weight is going to be quite low, I believe. Okay. So let's see what this is like at this point. This thrust to weight is 0.16. Time to apoapsis is, of course, decreasing. And at this juncture, we need a lot to get ourselves into orbit. So what's the DV in this right now? So this is good DV once we are in orbit. But using this as a kick stage to get us into orbit, not really ideal. So let's pull that back, and I want to empower that first stage a little bit. I would like to have the SRBs be, I think, in ramp down mode, because we have a lot of thrust to weight at the end of this as it is. So that is understood. I also want to change the alignment of these engines ever so slightly. Something like that. And we'll put some fuel tanks out over here. We'll need them to be somewhere around there in terms of length. The hemisphere here can definitely have fuel. And we're going to put on not one of these super expensive Phoenix solid boosters. We're probably going to be putting on one of these Ifrits. Okay, so something along the lines of that. Now what I want to do is I want to bring this up a bit to be about there, but actually a little further, because I'm thinking that we're probably going to increase the size of these Ifrits. I don't love that, actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a fuel tank to bridge the gap here. Okay, so that is going to end up going here. I would have liked for that to be auto-sized, but that did not happen, and now I can't detach this. Okay, there we go. Let's get... No. Undo. Get rid of you. There we go. Auto size here, it did not happen. Okay, so I guess we're going to be manually sizing this to be something kind of like that. Then we would attach it here. Okay, something along the lines of this. Now, I want to check here. This is solid fuel. Yes, that all looks correct. That is good. Now we're going to want to duplicate this around, like so. And you can see off the pad, we're going to have 2.84. That's a lot. So the fuel grain is currently on ramp down, which seems correct. Now, if we were to lift this off as it is right now, the way that I would want to do this is I would want to burn these engines at the same time. So we're going to have really, really high thrust to weight here. And yeah, that's the fairing. Okay, so this is up to 12 million. We still have so much budget headroom. Our thrust to weight is going to be very high, and my question is, are we going to experience heating issues on ascent? We will find out. So let's make sure we're at 90-degree pitch for now, and let's go. We're going to move this over fairly early to 70 because we know our thrust to weight is going to be very high. So I'm going to move this right now to 70. We're going to hold here, as usual, until about 20-kilometer apoapsis. So right about now, and then we're going to drop that pitch. How are we doing on the SRBs? Okay, so we see the Ifrit solid booster is taking heat damage. This is for an obvious reason. Okay, I'm not too concerned about that right now. Is it still taking heat damage? No, okay. That's fine. We can adjust the positioning of that. So at this point, I want to be down at like 30 degrees. Okay. We need to ditch those. Cool. And now I want to be at 0 degrees. Okay. So our thrust to weight is remaining pretty good throughout. Our apoapsis is actually currently dropping. We pitched down too early here. So I'm going to put us at 15. We're going to hold here for a bit. Cool. We're going to be ditching the fairing here, but not yet. There's, as you can see, too much heat currently. So apoapsis is up high enough. We can be going purely horizontal at this point. Okay. Still not comfortable ditching the fairing. That's 100-kilometer apoapsis. I'm going to keep burning here. We don't actually care that much about our apoapsis, so higher is kind of better in a weird sort of way. We can ditch the fairing now. Okay. We can shut down here and enter a coast phase, but I'm actually not going to. I'm going to keep burning here until we're out of fuel here. And now we're going to enter our coast phase. So the question is, at this point, how much DV is it actually going to take to put us into orbit? This is not too bad. So this would be a circularized orbit would be about here. Now, of course, we're not actually going for this yet. We're just testing that first stage for the moment. 60 days is the deadline for the Brigo landing. Interesting. That might be quite tight. Depending on phasing. So we might have to choose our launch time fairly precisely there. Of course, Brigo is this one. And if we set Brigo as our target, we're probably fine though, right? So Brigo is quite equatorial. What is its inclination? Yeah, 0.00. So we aren't really going to need an inclination change. That's noted. Okay, let's just head back to the Brigo lander for right now. And I'd like to select this burn. What does this say as far as auto execution goes? Burn time of 4.2 minutes, 380 meters per second. Okay, let's pull this right on back. And we know that we want to add on some solar panels for sure. And I want to just double check that we have a Druid in here. We, I believe, do. Yes. Good old Yuri is indeed in there. Okay. So that looks good. Now, we did suffer some heat damage here. What I want to do to fix that is I want to move these boosters ever so slightly up to be about right on par with our other engines. There we go. So something along the lines of that would do the trick. So that seems good. I also want to, I think, slightly increase the... Hang on, that's not what I wanted to do. Undo that. I wanted to slightly increase the size of, or rather the bottom size of these tanks. About like that. Very, very slight. Okay, so that seems good. Now we still need our solar panels here. So I would like to put in a pair of solar panels. We're going to be jettisoning those. I don't actually care too much about the size of them. This is fine as it is. So that's not a problem. We will be jettisoning those a little later on. So that seems okay. Now, the return trip, well, we don't need to land. In theory, yeah, we don't need to. I'm just thinking, do we need anything else here? Or are we good to go? Honestly, I think we're good to go here. I can't think of anything else that we might need. So let's go ahead and launch this. This will be very cheap. And we're just going to need to head to Brigo. We're going to need to enter orbit of Brigo. And then we're going to need to land on Brigo with both of these, right? So that's fine. I'm going to put us at a 70-degree pitch. Do we want to do that basically off the pad? We have such good thrust to weight. I think it's fine. Yeah. So we're going to head over like this. Excellent. Once again, about a 20-kilometer apoapsis before we're going to punch to 45 degrees. And we've got lots of thrust to weight here. That's for sure. Okay, so that is a 20-kilometer apoapsis. Let's pitch this over to 45. Wonderful. We're struggling a bit to hold here. We overshot that slightly, I'm noticing. I'm just keeping an eye on this. I think we'll just burn here until these burn out. So 5, 4, I'm noticing our apoapsis here. 2, 1, 0. Get rid of them immediately. Okay, now we're going to bring this down to about a 15-degree pitch. We got a lot of altitude out of that, but it's not quite enough to completely level out. So that sounds good for now. So this is an apoapsis of 80 kilometers now. So now we're okay to completely level out. Beautiful. So now we're just looking for large amounts of lateral speed. We don't care too much about our vertical speed from here on out. Let's just put this at about 100-kilometer apoapsis. I'm going to jettison these maybe slightly earlier than before, at about 55 kilometers. Let's see if we take heat damage. Looks good. Okay. Engine shutdown. We've got 13% fuel left. So now we're going to enter a coast phase. I don't know if this is a smart thing to do or not. We maybe should have burned this a little bit further. So this is 1.04 kilometers per second. Noted. I'm not convinced this is a great idea. We might want to change this ascent profile a little bit. We can extend our solar panels right about now. And let's execute this burn. Again, I'm not convinced that this is phenomenal. We're still going to need about 300 meters per second to get into orbit. Okay. So we'll jettison that. And let's get that extra delta V here. So this is now considered not recommended, and that is not surprising. We're currently going down, and yeah, I think we probably should have burned the booster earlier rather than coasting forward, just because we didn't quite have enough to fully circularize this orbit. If we did, this would be great. But as it is, I don't know. We need about 200 meters per second. It's going to be spicy. Let's see how it goes. Let's take it up to 2x speed. And we are going to lose some efficiency, but all we need to do is enter an orbit here. We don't need to get to this exact point. So I'm just keeping an eye on our altitude here and our overall speed. And you can see here we're counteracting gravity a little bit because of our low thrust to weight. So we're losing some efficiency on that, but we do have a lot of DV in this, so I think it's fine for now. We just need 100 meters per second at this point. And you can see we're down to 95 kilometers right now, but our periapsis is going to be coming up here. Yep, there we go. We can see it's currently around 15 kilometers, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and we're good. So this is now 80 kilometers. Yeah, this is fine. It shut off the engines at a weird time because of the accuracy, but this is fine. We're in orbit. So that looks good. At this point, we would set Brigo as our target, and we would need to head out. What would it look like if we did a burn around here? Okay, so the timing is not absolutely perfect, but we could definitely bring this in to somewhere around here. What is our target altitude? Let's see here. Apoapsis less than 200. Okay. So that seems fine. Apoapsis of less than 200. We can definitely do that. That is a collision. That is... And we needed the periapsis to be greater than 20, wasn't it? Yeah. Periapsis greater than 20 and apoapsis of less than 200. Okay, so this would technically count for that, 128 kilometers. I'm going to tune that down a little further, though. I'd like to be on the periapsis side of this. So 25.7 is pretty good. I think we will definitely take that. So this is a not recommended accuracy on this burn because it's a 13-minute burn. That makes sense. Well, let's give it a go. This is because our thrust to weight is low. We really could use some better vacuum engines. There's no doubt about that. So we would be commencing this burn like this, right? And we can see here that our periapsis is actually rising, so this is relatively fine in theory. Okay, so this is going to be a very long burn, no doubt about that. Even in 2x speed, it's going to take in real time about 6 minutes to get this burn completed. And this is just indicative of the fact that our vacuum optimized engines suck. They are not great. The thrust is incredibly low. Good specific impulse, no doubt about that, but I mean, it's not amazing. That said, once we get this burn completed, it should be in a reasonable state. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. So I want to check in here. We can see, yeah, this periapsis is going down at this point. So we need to keep an eye on that. We may have to do a second pass on this because we don't want that periapsis to dip into the atmosphere. That said, we're going to get to the periapsis here in about 50 seconds. We're at the bottom part of this right now. So in theory, I think we're fine. In theory. Emphasis on the theory. We just need to keep an eye on that periapsis. We are not coming back down to this level. So as long as this periapsis stays above 80 kilometers, which it's going to do at this point, guaranteed, as long as it stays above 80 kilometers, we're fine. So I think we're fine here. It's not the most efficient burn in the world because our thrust to weight is just so very low, but it'll be fine over Brigo. I'm not concerned about that. So this will be 25.7 kilometers. We'll see what the accuracy is actually like. We might do a fine-tune burn sometime around here. But we need about 900 meters per second left in this burn to get us out to Brigo. So that'll be fine. We're going to, of course, have to do a braking burn at Brigo and then get ourselves into the correct situation to jettison our lander, which... That's awkward. These are in the same stage? Well, we can activate the payload manually. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll do it that way. That's fine. Not a big deal. So we'll do that once we're in position there, and then we'll do the landing, and then we'll return back with our transit vehicle here. And that should, I believe, satisfy both contracts. I think. 95% certain that that'll satisfy both contracts. At any rate, of course, this burn is going to be going for a little while longer. We are about halfway through it. So, of course, that is awkward. In fact, we're arriving at the time right now. There we go. So this is now officially halfway through the burn. We are almost certainly going to have to do a corrective burn because of how low our thrust to weight is. We're going to need to alter our trajectory somewhat. But the question is, how much? And we'll figure that out. Okay, so we can see that our apoapsis is definitely going up nicely. We've got another roughly 500 meters per second to put into this, and you can see we've burned a good amount of our fuel, but this is the most energetic portion. Returning isn't going to be all that energetic because we're going to be using aerobraking to slow ourselves down, and hopefully we're going to come down over water. That'd be nice. I'm not convinced we'll survive a land landing with these drogue chutes, but water landing should be okay. In theory. But yeah, returning is going to require a lot less energy, so this should be absolutely a-okay. It's also, we're going to be losing this mass, so we're going to have slightly better performance in that regard as well. We're now 75% done with this burn. And we'll see what we get in terms of accuracy. I definitely am thinking we're going to need to do a corrective burn here, but this is up to low accuracy now instead of not recommended. That's definitely progress. So 1.5 minutes left on this burn time. Looks good. And about 200 meters per second to go on it. We can definitely see that this is really starting to move. We're starting to get those exponential gains that we like to see. Up to medium accuracy now. Okay, well, we'll see what it gives us. We would love to be at about 25 kilometers for the periapsis there, but I'm not convinced that that's going to be the exact location. "25 seconds left on this burn. Let's get this done. So I'm going to take us out of warp as of now. There's about 10 seconds left on the burn. Looks good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so this is 790 kilometers. As expected, we are going to want to dial this in a bit. So we're going to do exactly that. I'm going to turn down this sensitivity. This is not going to require very much DV at all to get us to where we want to be. And where we want to be is about 25 kilometers away here. That's too much. Okay, let's turn the sensitivity all the way down, and we're going to put this right about here. So you can see that is 12.461 meters per second of corrective burn there, and that's changing this tremendously. So we're going to run exactly that burn, slight correction, and this is just because we had such low thrust to weight that this was lost due to efficiency. Cool, 24.9, good enough. That'll do for now. So at this point, it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we are going to deploy this lander and head on back to Drew at that point. We're going to land this and head back. I don't know if we'll get both of those done in one episode, but we will see. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.